I love this. So Marks and Spencer's, increasingly the UK's answer to Trader Joe's, I think, has filed a trademark application for, wait for it, punishment juice.
Any idea what's actually in this thing?
I've got no solid details, but if the name's anything to go by, I'm guessing it's either a supercharged health elixir or something designed to make you question your life choices.
Well, either way, TikTok is going to lose its mind over it. And let's be honest, it's already got our attention. Mission accomplished, M&S.
And speaking of things that might make you question your life choices, we've got a great episode lined up, diving into the shape of health to come.
You know that feeling when you're cruising along in life, feeling pretty good, and then ouch, one day you wake up and you're full of aches and pains? A recent article in the New York Times tuned into this, and it turns out that aging doesn't happen in a nice smooth line, but more so in undulating waves. So we might experience these aging jumps around our mid 40s and again in our 60s, which explains why your metabolism can suddenly give up on you and why tolerance for alcohol suddenly drops. The article hints at ways people might be able to delay or manage these aging jumps, though much of the research is still in its early stages.
Well, don't stop there, Caitlin. I'm taking notes here.
Okay, so if aging does jump, people could focus on specific health concerns at different life stages. For example, in your 40s, pay attention to metabolism, alcohol tolerance, and muscle maintenance. While in your 60s, you might focus on immune health and muscle function. And then there's advice for dealing with certain life events like pregnancy, trauma, adversity, and infections, all of which may speed up biological aging. This suggests that minimizing risk factors and prioritizing recovery after major health events could be beneficial.
All of this reminds me of Dr. Peter Attia's book, Outlive, and that's the science and art of longevity. I think I got about halfway through.
Life is too short.
Yeah. And Peter observes a healthcare system that's preoccupied with treating diseases after they appear. And he advocates, of course, for a more proactive, preventative approach to health. His whole philosophy is that aging well is like training for a marathon. If you don't prepare, you're going to suffer. And his research finds that exercise is king. It's much more about metabolic health and sort of fad diets, and that sleep is the kind of longevity superpower. And poor sleep, he says, is linked to nearly every major chronic disease.
So this isn't about hacking our way to 100. I guess it's like everything in life. The more we train, the better the results.
Which runs counter to society's expectations of instant results, right? But for those prepared to go the distance, the scientific journal Nature Food published results in November 2023 that found people's life expectancy can increase by up to 10 years following sustained shifts towards healthier diets. So essentially cutting out the processed meat and sugary foods and eating more whole grains and nuts. Now, a reason this study really stands out for me is because it used the dietary and health information from 460,000 participants.
Nonetheless, many people turn to the efforts of just one man, Brian Johnson, for advice on how to live forever. If you haven't heard, Brian is a multimillionaire tech entrepreneur who is devoting his life to reversing the aging process. He spends $2 million annually on this endeavor, claiming to have biologically reversed his age, giving him the heart of a 37-year-old and the lung capacity of an 18-year-old at the age of 46. Johnson's ultimate goal is not just longevity, but immortality, or at least surviving long enough to benefit from advancements in anti-aging science.
I mean, when you look at his daily routine, you've got to wonder if this guy is actually living at all. Constant medical tests, rigorous exercise, something called high intensity electromagnetic stimulation. That bit could be fun, actually.
You think so? He's an eccentric for sure, but his journey is undeniably pushing the boundaries of what is considered possible. And while most people still rely on quick fixes, there is growing pressure on people to take more control over their health. Aging populations, creaking healthcare infrastructures, and here in the US, rising insurance claim denials, sparking public outrage and culminating in violence.
And let's not forget that any podcast about health cannot be limited to a discussion around physical health. We live in a world now where overstimulation is creating a range of cognitive issues. Number of studies now have found direct relationships between the use of social media and mental health issues, depression, anxiety, sleep issues. So later in this episode, we're going to be featuring some of the very latest tech that claims to address some of these issues.
And you've got some exclusive health research to share?
Yes, I have. We've been checking in with the world's health priorities, comparing results to a very similar study that we did back in 2021.
What's the story for gut health?
Well, here's a spoiler for you. It was our highest climber since 2021, for sure. And younger audiences are creating this shift. So if I drill down into the 18 to 24 bracket across the UK and the US, from a list of 20 competing health priorities, gut health has moved up from 13th place in 2021 to 6th place in 2025. And a reflection, I think, in no small part to the efforts of brands in that so called modern soda category.
We are so lucky to be joined today by the fabulous Monserrate, Senior Manager of Technical Consumer Research at the Coca-Cola Company. Welcome, Mon.
Thank you, Caitlin. I'm very excited to be here with you today.
Yes, so great to have you on the pod. So let's talk about the meteoric rise of modern soda. This has obviously been escalated recently by Walmart, who are making space for it in more than 4,300 stores. What does this say about consumers and their changing needs?
I think that this confirms the ever evolving nature of human being. Like how we are always looking for ways to discover things, to experience new, I will call them episodes in life, especially thinking about the younger generations, just influencing the intentional lookout for health aiding, yes, but also like propositions that bring novelty into their lives. So these products combining a great taste with added benefits just aligns to consumers' needs of today. And then talking specifically about beverages and Walmart escalating like this modern soda has come to open the door to new occasions for enjoying beverages, but also allows us to offer products that align with these ever evolving preferences. I would say, like, if I had to summarize it in a sentence, I see this just as an evolution.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we covered this on one of our earlier podcasts, the discovery era. Consumers are definitely looking for new and unique experiences and looking to really expand their horizons when it comes to products. I think alongside that evolution, we seem to have a more intentional consumer segment arising. So those that don't necessarily want to give up their daily delights, but they also want to feel a bit more virtuous in their choices. So it seems like these consumers are looking for something that's great tasting and refreshing, but also functionally beneficial. So, not surprising that it seems like Gen Z is kind of clinging to this most tightly. How has this played into your considerations for innovation in the space?
I think it has been key to decide like the best path to follow. I would say that we have seen like over the time, if we go back like historically, how generations come influencing the younger generations. And then we do learn like from the past, but also do learn from the future, like upcoming generations.
Okay.
So in that sense, I would say that Gen Z have definitely influenced the way in which we designed our product, but not only designed our product, but also like chose the best path to move forward.
Interesting. It's always neat to hear how past, present, and future can all influence what we're making in the current time. So let's chat about Coca Cola's exciting entry into the gut health space, Simply Pop. What did you discover when engaging with your target audiences? How do they think about gut health?
A lot of different things, but I will start by saying that it's exciting to now have a product for North America. We used to have like a couple of products in other regions, thinking about gut health in general. So now that we are like having this entry into North America, it has just been just so exciting. I can say that throughout the journey of developing Simply Pop, we were able to learn a lot from how consumers are actually shopping and engaging in the way that today different brands are looking to deliver a benefit, right? But when I say different brands, this goes beyond beverages only. We have like a lot of different options out there, all the way from snacks, supplements, ways in which consumers are engaging with these benefits. And so overall, I will say that we identify what was needed out there from a consumer perspective, but especially how we could address these needs by leveraging one of our beloved brands, which in the end also builds on the trust and quality that consumers are looking for. Because when we put together all of the pieces, we know that quality and trust are important things to have. I would say the way in which we designed our product aims to deliver a naturally refreshing experience with juice, of course, because it's simply no added sugar and a great taste. And that's what we try to deliver on.
It's great that you're using familiar brands, and it seems to have really evolved to find this niche in North America for gut health. I can remember 5 or 6 years ago, Sprite with fiber in the faux shoe category in Japan, and that was a beloved product that consumers understood to benefit the gut, but not necessarily in as specific a way as we're seeing with Simply Pop and some of the other competitors you have in the space. So, could you tell us a little bit more about your efforts in developing Simply Pop? What kind of went on behind the scenes as you pulled that product together?
Yes, so it was a big effort. It was a big effort led by an amazing team. I can tell you that I had the best team to work with for this project. I think that one of the key things that we did is that we worked together through every step, making sure that we were moving in the right direction. I can point out that we took care of every detail. We knew that we wanted to get it right. It would require not only time, but also dedication, some back and forth discussions, iterations, and overall resilience throughout the process. We do have a complex product with multiple variables playing a not only key, but also intentional role within the product proposition. And all of these had to come together. You know, it's just like making a puzzle or playing a perfect symphony. So we worked through multiple rounds of testing with MMR, who was our partner throughout this journey, to be able to customize each of the flavors to ensure the best sensory experience by leveraging our 20 plus years of expertise in great tasting juice products specifically.
That's great background information. And we obviously know that the gut health soda category is growing and evolving with lots of new brands playing kind of the cool card to appeal particularly to Gen Z. How did you make sure in this process and through your rounds of testing that Simply Pop would stand out?
First of all, I would say we came into the space endorsed by Simply. It is a trusted and reliable brand that consumers can relate to. And we brought the juiciness and the quality that the brand is known for with us along the journey and for the product. Then Simply Pop is made out of 25 to 30% real fruit juice from concentrate, which delivers on this natural, refreshing taste with no added sugar, but also no aftertaste. We chose a different packaging that we believe connects better with our product proposition, but also adds some differentiation to what's out there already. But if I had to summarize it like in one sentence, I'd say we took the time to craft a product with a consumer first mindset. So that for me would be the thing that Simply Pop is bringing into this space.
Yes, and we know obviously that Simply juices are very well trusted, now being a more than $1 billion brand. So, in addition to that fruit juice, which is super differentiating, we do also see that a lot of these appealing flavors of soda already exist. And there are critics out there who suggest that there's nothing else that can be added to the category. What do you think we need to keep on the horizon for Simply Pop to keep the flavors exciting and interesting for consumers?
There's still a lot of room to play. So when I think about innovation in this space, I would say that innovation in flavors is a continuous journey. Like it is not a destination. Of course, like we all love some of the classic soda flavors and would love like to have them forever available. But innovation can still go a long way. Like sometimes just adding a twist or a new sensation can deliver on a whole new experience for our consumers, which we are already talking about. Like this curiosity that consumers have today awakens the opportunity of developing these differences within a set of flavors. Then, if I think about it, nowadays we are all very much connected. Like across the globe, we are very much connected through social media and other sources. So there's always something going on somewhere around the world that can serve as inspiration. I believe that creativity, consumer trends, and technological advancements will continue to open new doors for innovative and appealing soda flavors. So there's still like a lot of room to explore.
Well, it's been great chatting with you about the gut health category today, Mon, and thanks again. Congratulations on the Simply Pop launch and for tuning in with us straight from Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta. We look forward to seeing more in the future.
Thank you, Caitlin, for having me.
Great to hear there from a player with real skin in the game. It does show, doesn't it, how the soda category is adapting, reshaping itself to support wellness. And we can't not mention Pepsi's recent acquisition, of course, of Poppy. And I think that shows the true extent of product power because they did very little marketing, but it very quickly created a brand worth $2 billion.
Now, you teased us earlier with news of some exclusive new research.
Yeah, well, there is a big story here that underlines why gut health is such a big opportunity right now. So we asked people across the UK, the US, and China to tell us what their priorities were when it comes to health. Now, unlike many pollsters, we didn't rock up with a leading question like, does gut health matter to you? Rather, we presented people with a combination of health priorities. So they saw 4 health priorities out of a possible list of 20. And what we were asking for is what was the most important and least important. And we wanted quick, intuitive responses to this.
Okay, so forcing people to make choices, which is pretty much how we operate in real life.
I think we tested something like 65,000 possible combinations. So the results that I'm about to share are about as robust as they get. And given that we did exactly the same exercise in 2021, which is basically when we were emerging from the pandemic, we've got a really decent point of comparison here.
So give us the rundown then.
Okay, so here's your 2025 Impact Makers chart rundown for people's health priorities, UK and US. At number 10, down 3 places, it's eye health. So, in a screen-saturated world, vision problems aren't just common, they're constant. So don't write this one off yet. In China, eye health is in 6th position for Gen Z. At number 9, despite increasing rates of obesity, weight management is a non-mover on 2021. Could it be that GLP-1 medications have solved the obesity crisis, leaving weight management in the past? Or are they going to raise the importance of healthy weight across society? And at number 8, generating more velocity than anything else, up 4 places on 2021, it's gut health. Now, number 8 is probably not as high as some might have expected, particularly people in the media, but the people have spoken here. At number 7, it's an old favourite, energy. But in a world of competing priorities, it has fallen 2 places on 2021, when, to be fair, our need for energy was probably raised because of the pandemic. At 6, up 2 places on 2021, it's blood pressure. It's a priority no longer confined to the middle age bracket and beyond. Recent studies have shown that people are developing hypertension and pre-hypertension earlier. At number 5 and up 1 place, it's sleep. Forecasts were pointing to a world where the human race prioritized sleep more, and it appears to be coming true through our study. For Gen Z, sleep climbed 2 places to number 4. And at all consumer number 4, it became a major focus during the pandemic, and it has not left the stage. Holding 4th place, it's stress levels. So with apps like Calm and Headspace and the ability to track everything from our heart rates to our moods, stress is now trackable, shareable, and manageable. On to our top 3 now. At number 3, it's the pandemic's legacy, immune health. It retains 3rd place and by some distance over stress levels. It's linked to boosting energy, reducing inflammation, staying resilient in a world of physical and emotional stresses. So supporting immunity feels both proactive and empowering to modern consumers. Are you excited, Caitlin? Because I'm now at number 2. Number 2, and it's not going anywhere. It's brain health, no longer limited to age-related cognitive decline. People of all ages are now focusing on mood, clarity, and long-term cognitive function. And so, retaining our top spot, and with good reason, it's heart health. It might not be grabbing the headlines, but for consumers, it is still their baseline. With heart disease remaining the world's biggest killer and more people realizing how interconnected the heart is with stress, sleep, longevity, it's no surprise that our hearts are our top priority, even for Gen Z. This isn't about living longer, it's about living better. How did I do?
I get the feeling you rather enjoyed that.
Absolutely.
Great to get that definitive handle on people's priorities, Andrew. And what's clear is that there are so many areas competing for consumers' time and resources.
I mean, there really is. And in this study, we also measured things like skin health and sexual health, blood sugar levels. What I can say is that in the US, blood sugar moved up from 17th in 2021 to 11th. This was one of the key differences between the UK and the US data, where blood sugar here is 14th place. And I think this shift reflects the latest buzz around metabolic health. We've seen low GI brands like General Mills' Good Measure emerge, and modern sodas appealing to these metabolic health seekers. I think it's just another example of a health dynamic that's breaking free from historic confines. Blood sugar was once the concern of diabetics, but now it's linked to how we feel after we eat and drink, how stable our energy is.
And didn't your study also look at the awareness and perceived efficacy of 50 functional ingredients? Ashwagandha to zinc. Is there an easy way to summarize the results?
What I can say is that the biggest risers, both sides of the Atlantic actually, are lion's mane and ashwagandha. So this is biggest risers since 2021. The biggest faller is plant sterols. Now these are used in cholesterol lowering products, of course.
Listeners can download a comprehensive free guide called What Health Means Now. Just go to mmr-research.com and follow the links. Now, we are delighted to be joined by some of MMR's brilliant sensory minds to assess some of the very latest health products. Our team here in the US has checked with products promoting GABA. Our first esteemed guest, sensory scientist Coleman Rock, will break down that acronym for us in just a minute. But despite GABA trending on socials, MMR's data finds that only 1 in 4 Americans are actually aware of GABA. But this could change. For our listeners who may not be chronically online, Kin Euphorics is a more recent entrant in the functional beverage space that claims to be rooted in Ayurvedic medicine. They're prominent on social media, and that's thanks in part to a borrowed audience from co-founder, international supermodel Bella Hadid. Now, Coleman, you've taken the High Road Social Hour GABA-inclusive non-alc spirit out for a spin. Could you tell us about your experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience. Let's start with just how they package their bottles. I mean, the packaging alone is awesome. The sensory experience of that is very, very simple. They like to keep their fonts and everything very bold. They like to make sure that you're looking at something and you're thinking, ah, man, this looks clean. This looks just refreshing almost as I just look at the package. It's marketed as this brain care, mood enhancing, immunity boosting, no hangover kind of replacement for alcohol to kind of give you that same smooth, relaxing feeling that you would get if you know how to drink with just one of your friends for a nice night out. The sensory experience of that helps match that by having something that is clean, again, crisp. I think that's kind of what they're aiming for, again, with this GABA trying to go for brake pedal of your nervous system and such like that. The sensory experience definitely matches that. I think the one thing that caught me off guard was just how little of an off taste and a separate taste that you would kind of associate with these like nutritional additives and stuff like that. I feel like a huge common misconception about the products is that they do have this almost, medicinal or almost powdery experience to it. But this one did not. I was very surprised. It really tasted like I was just having a nice little cocktail mix. I think that the sensory experience of it isn't something that's very complicated. It's very straightforward.
Seems like pretty consistent in terms of the experience alongside how you defined the brand identity as well. We always love to see those key sensory subliminal touch points being consistent across. And also this idea that we've got something that's both almost physically as well as mentally refreshing, which seems to be the intention of GABA, putting us into those areas of something that's going to make us feel like we're sitting on the porch, make us relax. Do you feel like you can reach for this while you're out at the bar with your friends?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. There's so many drawbacks of having too many drinks with your friends, but I can't see this having those same effects the next day. So yeah, this could definitely be a good substitution for something when I just want to, enjoy my night out with my friends. Maybe I'm not feeling like having a late night and I want to go to bed on time and feel good the next day.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that, Coleman. Sounds like a +1 for GABA here. In addition to seeing it play in these more alcohol replacement spaces, we're seeing GABA really quickly expand across different types of brands and formats. We've seen patches, we've seen gummies, and even a pixie stick, and that's a tube filled with a sugary-like powder from another brand, Mood Magic, that's also similarly viral on TikTok, coming into the mix. So definitely some expansion and innovation happening in the space. Some of these products are even positioned for children, which is continuing the trend seen prominently in the US of seeking more natural alternatives to pharmaceuticals.
Now, it's worth saying that the sales of pure GABA is prohibited here in the UK and many European markets because of concerns over misuse. But it's pretty visible over in Japan, having been popularized in confectionery and alcohol-free beers like Suntory's All Free, which claims to be good for memory. Let's bring in Harshi. She's one of MMR's sensory scientists here in Europe. What have you been looking into?
Well, when one of the world's most iconic athletes like Beckham steps into the wellness game, you're really going to pay attention. So his new product, IM8, really caught my eye. It promises a very premium performance-led, supplement. And I really, really wanted to have a look at what's behind the brand and the entire product experience as a whole, and whether, IM8 can really deliver more than just a beautifully packaged Beckham branded product.
Yeah, for listeners reaching out to Google, that's IM8. So, what were your first impressions when this product arrived at your door?
So when it did arrive at my door, I kind of got this whole welcome pack that came with it. And honestly, from the moment you even are opening the box, the product experience is quite captivating, because even the box itself has a tactile experience. You open the box and there's a little QR code and nothing more, which you scan, and is a welcome message from Beckham. So it really kind of like pulls you in straight away. At the beginning, I was like, is this a bit gimmicky? But really, it was so many videos around how he uses the product, the scientists behind the product, why it's going to work, recipe ideas as well. So it's almost as if you were being brought into a new level of like a wellness game almost.
How did the actual play out of the product experience compare to your expectations?
One of the things that really got me was the weight of the scoop that you get with it. It was so heavy, and for some reason that was very satisfying to keep using that every morning. They give you lots of little bits and bobs like the containers and so on, and they are all perfectly aligned with the entire product experience, from the color, from the branding, from the shapes. It really has been thought about at every touch point. This product has 92 different ingredients in it, which is nuts, like when you think about that. So I was really expecting an impact on the sensory experience, expecting it not to taste good, really, with the things that were in it. But I can honestly say that it's probably one of the best tasting supplements that I've ever tasted. So the idea with the IM8 is that they want to get all your supplements in one package. So you don't have to supplement with any more, like gut products or vitamins or minerals or anything like that. It's all in one package. So when I did start taking it, which was about a month ago, felt fairly normal. It wasn't that I was struggling with anything, but what I did notice through the month of taking it was I was definitely feeling less bloated, and that was probably because of the gut benefits that were coming with IM8. So the pro and prebiotics. The other thing I realized was I was sleeping better, sleeping and waking up with a lot more energy and consistently as well. And the brain fog through the day, I was definitely had more energy through the day, and it was more sustained.
Yeah, well, we'll have to compare your delivery now to maybe a few episodes ago to see. Anyway, a big tick for IM8. I also asked you to look at M&S's Brain Food. That's M&S again. They've launched 13 products under a Brain Food banner. What did you look at there?
You tasked me with the idea to go and look at some of them, and I actually went and tried the entire range of them, and I'm surprised I'm not bouncing off the
All
wall.
13.
As many as I could. And I did have a few favorites of their actual range. Some of my favorites was actually the Brain Ball. That was my favorite product of the entire range compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah, this is the one that I think they've trumpeted as being one of the top 10 sellers of the entire M&S food range. And that includes some of their high-selling sandwiches. So, yes, you thought that one delivered. Why was that?
Yeah, so I think it's this idea of, obviously they're tapping into this trend with the energy balls, and like, the other brands like Deliciously Ella and so on play so heavily in this space. But M&S have come out with something that's actually quite slightly different, in the sense that I really enjoyed the sensory experience of eating that one, because the outer coating of the entire ball is covered in like freeze-dried raspberry. So when you do bite into it, what you actually get is like a really zingy, sharp first experience versus, like just a sweet date paste, where you get that in some of the other ones. And what that meant was like you almost like have this little wake up moment because you're like, oh, actually, like it's quite zingy and like bursts in your mouth. And then you have this chewy date paste followed by a very like thick, indulgent almond butter on the middle. So it was really enjoyable actually to get like this 3 layers almost in what would be
Mm.
just an energy bowl.
And a credible experience in terms of, I mean, we know it's got B12, it's got iron, it's got zinc, etc. But beyond that, did you feel that the format was working hard enough to convince you that this product was likely to work?
I think it's an interesting one because that format is what I really associate with energy bowl
Mm.
more than anything. So I can see it more as like mental energy and a bit of like a wake up or a little bit of a boost or that workday break moment, the 3 p.m. moment that you
Yeah.
talk about a lot.
In sum, do you think M&S has done something progressive here, or do you think it's a little bit gimmicky?
Progressive is maybe not the word I would use. It's very reactive. They are reacting to trends for sure. They
Mm.
are reacting to what's happening. They're reacting to what consumers are looking for.
Yeah, well, brain health, number 2, global health priority, as we unveiled earlier.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say it's definitely reactive and on trend, but I did enjoy the range. I did enjoy trying it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you, Miss Brainbox, for your time. And we look forward to sending you on another assignment soon.
Amazing. I look forward to it.
So there are visionaries who are inventing healthful bolt-on products, many with hefty price premiums. And there are those like my next guest who seek to reimagine everyday food choices for millions of consumers. Recently, he's hit out at some of the media coverage of ultra-processed foods, saying it's not that you process, it's what you process and with what motive. So let's find out a little bit more. Welcome, Leo Campbell. He is founder of Modern Baker and the Superloaf. Leo, you'll be pleased to hear I am a fan of your product, but I know many of our listeners may not be aware of Superloaf. How did that come about?
Hi, Andy. Well, thanks for having me on the show and in your great offices. So, how this all came about was that my co founder, Melissa, was diagnosed with breast cancer in her 30s a little while back. And I was with her at the first chemo session that she had as a result of her cancer. And into the chemo ward came the refreshment trolley laden with what we now would call ultra processed foods. They weren't called that then. And to be honest, they're not something that should have been really being promoted in a chemo ward. Look, we understand that that's just how the world goes round and how it is, so no big deal. But Melissa looked at me and I caught her eye, and she actually turned to me and said, "What the fuck?" And she was just learning about the connection between diet and chronic ill health. And something happened to both of us at that point where we decided to repurpose our careers, that if there was anything we could do. And then specifically about Superloaf itself, we've been working for 6 years in university labs funded by 6 Innovate UK, 6 successive grant funding awards, working in stealth mode, looking at the bigger problem. I mean, where we started within all of this is that what if it were possible to make ultra processed foods healthy? That was our start point. The reason we are in a loaf of bread is because it's the West's staple food. And we thought the world didn't need another birch water or nut butter. And if we were going to do something, we should do it in a staple food. So bread it was.
And you lead with this narrative of nutrition density.
Yeah, it's a wider concept. I mean, nutrient density is becoming now a well understood and known phrase. We need to move away from the current HFSS orthodoxy that is driving the whole of our food industry.
Yeah.
And
High fat, salt, and sugar foods. Yeah.
yeah, and that it's, to be honest, all the guidelines around that are not working. I mean, demonstrably, they're not working in all sorts of different ways. I don't think there's anybody who disagrees with that the science is decades old and in many cases completely discredited now. So we need a new vision. And that new vision is what has been termed nutrient density. The media understands what nutrient density is. The grant givers understand. And so now do the food manufacturers and retailers.
So Superloaf almost sounds like the start of it.
Well, yeah. So after 6 years working with all sorts of different universities and organisations and having millions of pounds worth of grant funding, and about a year ago we launched Superloaf onto the market with Hovis as our brand license manufacturing partner. That's our business model. And it was quickly dubbed by the grocer, for listeners overseas, that's the UK's,
Premier trade magazine, yeah.
as the world's first healthy ultra-processed food.
Yeah.
And what they meant by that was it's the first consciously developed ultra-processed food to incorporate health. And the health intervention that we have incorporated into it is completely based on the concept of nutrient density.
How's it actually doing in the marketplace?
Well, it's doing fantastically well. I mean, I will caveat to say that because we're a challenger brand, we have the ability to have a dialogue with the consumer in a way that an established brand wouldn't be able to. And it seems that it's just exactly hit the right spot at the right time. So we launched into 300 Marks and Spencer stores in the UK. And last month we sold triple that forecast that was estimated for it to be a success. And we're in nearly double the amount of stores already. And it's now in Sainsbury's and on Ocado and soon to be listed in other UK retailers. But most of all, what I think is really significant is the customer reviews we get. I mean, why anybody would give a bread 5 stars is beyond me. But what it tells us is that there's an emotional connection, that people feel this is filling a hole in their lives that is bigger than just something to do with bread.
That's fantastic to hear, Leo. Best thing since sliced bread, I think we can say. But as you know, it's a cover star, isn't it, of Chris Van Taleken's book, Ultra Processed People. What do you make of the current UPF debate and the impacts on people's health?
Well, the definition of ultra-processed food, the Nova definition, was never designed to drive policy or anything like that. And it's been adopted by the media and by the industry as a football to kick around. And the truth about it is that there isn't an answer to it. So it suits a lot of people within the debate because there isn't an answer to the ultra-processed food debate. But what we have to do, I mean, first of all, ultra-processed foods are not going to be outlawed. You know, prohibition of ultra-processed foods would just...
Well, it's impossible, isn't it? And still being able to feed the population, you just cannot eradicate. Yeah.
And if you double or triple the price of food, there'd be riots on the streets, societal breakdown and everything. So it's just ridiculous that people think that this is going to happen. So we have to work with ultra-processed foods, not against them. That's our policy, and that was our start point on this whole journey. And I think we can get there. The problem we have at the moment with all the industry commentators is that because they've had such good media coverage about all of this, that they have remained focused on the problem, not on the solutions. So in a way, you could describe them as the midfield, hogging the ball, to be honest, and they need to make way for the strikers to get on with solving the problems.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big football fan, but I do get the analogy.
Yeah. Well, one of the ways you could solve it, I have right in front of me. M&S has asserted itself once again with this one ingredient cornflakes. Interestingly, there is no reference on the pack to why they've launched this product. It's simply the fact that it had one ingredient. That is one way that the industry could react to this growing concern about UPF, which is to reduce the amount of ingredients. What's your reaction to what M&S has done?
I think it's easy to underestimate what they have actually done with this because it doesn't actually solve the problem. And I don't think anybody thinks that it does because it's still processed. It's still a lot of the criticisms tied up in that product. But what they have actually done, they have shifted an industry that has been saying that they can't do that. And so I think there's been a tectonic plate shift that they have been able to make happen. And the reason that they could do it and no one else could, and this is for the industry to do things differently, is because they own their own recipes uniquely among all the retailers. So they've been able to do it. And so whilst it's not the end goal, and it isn't, I think it's something to be really welcomed because it's shown that the food industry can, when they're forced to, change their processing.
Take out some of the less desirable ingredients, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the difficulty, so this is all about having a clean ingredient deck or whatever you want, taking anything with an X or a Z out of that, which is a kind of random approach to it because a lot of these things are actually quite good for us, not just because they've got a funny name, it doesn't mean that they aren't actually actively good for human digestion.
Okay, so simplification of ingredients is one way forward. The other, probably closer to your belief system, might be to increase the range of nutrients in people's diets. So we've got at the moment, haven't we, narratives such as the 30 plants a week from Tim Spector. So perhaps another strategic response from manufacturers to the UPF debate is to make better products through better fortification, better diversity of the ingredients. Would that be progress?
Yeah, and so maybe I should just reframe what you've said in a way through our lens, which is that we've been living in an era for decades now where we've been taking things out of foods that we perceive are problems, fundamentally calories, but we've wrapped them up in terms of the macronutrients. And we call that a health minus era. And it demonstrably hasn't had any benefits to society and public health. Nutrient density, what we're pioneering, is what we call a health plus era, where we start putting high impact nutrient interventions into the food system. So, and that does two things. First of all, so many of the problems that there are in ultra processed foods, such as high glycemic impact and a lack of gut microbiome inputs and all sorts of other things as well along the way, can be offset by having high impact nutrients in a product such as Superloaf. So these things cease to become a problem. So instead of changing them in the factory, you just change the composition of the product so they stop being a problem. This is moving upstream. But also at the same time, you can add a huge amount of beneficial nutrition at the same time as well. So you can go beyond anything that a home cooked meal could give you. And it's all done stealthily.
So you're talking about a move from healthier, which is perhaps the traffic light system, for example.
Except it doesn't work.
It does create some anomalies, doesn't it?
Huge amounts.
Yeah. But nonetheless, a sort of sea change from healthier to healthful is where you'd like to see things head.
Absolutely. And the problem for big brands around making this move is that because it doesn't fit in with the guidelines, then they're very reluctant to do it because it doesn't score them any more points. Whereas for a challenger brand, you can do that because a consumer is expecting a different dialogue with a challenger brand. And how we frame that is that it's been very much a front of pack debate about, what claims you've got on the front of the pack. And everybody knows these claims, again, are often pretty meaningless, to a back of pack debate. And we use that as a euphemism, that not literally, but a consumer's now happy to have a debate with a brand that's not based around the claims on the front of the pack. So this advantages challenger brands at this moment in time. And this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on how we increase adoption of healthier foods? Because if the food industry moves more healthy, I guess there is an argument that some of that allure is lost, and manufacturers might be reluctant to move at the pace that they need to. So have you got any thoughts on how you increase that adoption? If you bridge the intention gap between what consumers say they want to live more healthily, and what they actually buy at that moment of truth.
Well, the fundamental issue in the question you just asked there is what's the definition of healthy? We've got the wrong definition of healthy. So you say, what can we do to drive healthier food adoption? Well, that's what we've been doing for the last 30 years, taking fat out of food and doing all sorts of things. So we can't do that until we change the definition of what is healthy and start looking at what actually happens in human biology of an actual food event in your body and the consequential issues on your blood glucose, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your lipids, the diversity of your gut microbiome and the short chain fatty acid outputs and that whole digestive process. Until we do that, it's almost like a Kafkaesque joke that, we can have on evidentially unhealthy products, 3 or 4 green traffic lights telling you that it's a healthy product when there isn't a stakeholder in this that doesn't know that's wrong. So what are we doing? honestly, what are we doing? We need to redefine what healthy means.
Yeah, interesting thoughts. And specifically about the intention gap, have you got any views there?
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because I've been trying to say that we have to change legislation and everything like that, but there are other forces at work. We've just done a study with Bristol University, their consumer labs, backed by the BBSRC, who are a funding body, where we've used smart vending machines. And we placed 2 cookies in these smart vending machines, and the recipients knew nothing about what was going on, not even that it was about nutrition. One with our intervention in it and one without.
When you say your intervention, what was your intervention?
So I referred earlier to the fact that 15% of Superloaf is a blend of ingredients that is of our design.
Okay.
And
And you'd applied it to a cookie format in one of these vending machines.
that's correct.
Right.
And there's all sorts of stuff that's emerged from it. It was absolutely fascinating. But the key statistic there is that after the 6th cookie that people had, there started to be a divergence of sort of opinions about the product. And the ones with the intervention that was clearly demonstrably much healthier for them started to show a much greater preference for saying, I would buy this. And the sense that definitely satiety was something they were experiencing, but also their intention to buy and their preference in taste, whereas these were essentially identical.
And was there any explanation as to why people were developing that affinity to the healthier option?
Well, the hypothesis at the moment, because we haven't got enough data, but we are going back this summer to do a much bigger scale test, is that there's some innate knowledge in the human being about what's good for you. So bearing in mind that these people are eating a completely different set of fibers, a very high in bioactive compound product, so that's polyphenols and things like that had further been fermented, this is what's in our blend, to amplify all of these benefits.
So what you're telling me almost is that the consumer's behavior is being affected by some sort of physiological response to the nutrition that's being digested through this superior cookie.
Well, that's certainly the hypothesis that's emerging from this trial, that humans have a kind of innate nutritional awareness, and therefore they are preferring and prioritizing something without knowing it that is more nutritious.
Let's get your reaction to some of the immediate reactions to the UPF debate. So you've got the Zoe app, for example, that's launched a new UPF scale that's designed, they say, to counter scaremongering. It prioritizes health impacts over the levels of processing. It considers calories and ingredients used. But the FDF, the Food and Drink Federation, is not impressed. They said that this scale contradicts government advice. So do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, we're back locked in this thing that keeps coming up about the definition of healthy. Of course, the Food and Drink Federation wants to say that the existing system works when it doesn't, because it's just simply easier to leave things as they are. Whereas Zoe is tugging in the other direction, saying change is needed, and change is needed. So all of these different classification systems, rather like the one ingredient M&S product development, I think it's important that if we want transformation, we need to go through transition. We can't ever jump straight to transformation. So these are all transition moves. If we move upstream, what we actually need to do is the nutrient profiling model that's owned by the Food Standards Agency, which is the basis around traffic lights and the basis around HFSS. They're not directly connected, but they're all based on the same metrics. That needs to change. And so Nutri-Score, the Zoe app, Yuka, which is a scanning app, they're all riddled with flaws because they're not actually based on human biology, the human biological impact of these foods on your body. They're based on hypothetical scores that are all added together in a linear way outside the human body. These things are never going to work. They're always going to be riddled with problems.
So, what do you see as the opportunity for manufacturers that sort of rises above the technicalities of these apps and systems classifications?
I think the thing that really has happened is that consumers are much more sophisticated about all of this than they've ever been. The mood music in the media and policymakers, food manufacturers and retailers, just look at what M&S have done, for example, tells us that actually we're breaking away from the orthodoxy that we've been wedded to for decades. And this allows huge opportunities for brands to start their own dialogue. We've shown ourselves, we've sold millions of Superloaves already, and all of our messaging sits outside the standard orthodoxy of HFSS, fat, sugar, salt dialogue. People don't care about that anymore. The whole of the Zoe ecosystem sits outside that as well, and people are latching onto it. So there's going to be this transition, and brands will either lean into that or not. The difficulty at the moment for a big brand is, frankly, no one trusts their health claims anymore. They've been so debased and challenged that it's really the challenger brands now that can come in and occupy this space. And what will happen is that the large brands will start buying the challenger brands who start driving nutrient density and the other dialogue around that. And we'll move on. I mean, after 6 years in the labs, we're just coming out of stealth mode. And actually, our last 15 months, we've been working with an Innovate UK funded project to transfer all the goodness out of Superloaf into other food categories. So that's not just bakery, but pasta, ready meals, breakfast cereals, things like that. And yes, it's good timing because we're now starting to talk to food manufacturers and retailers about new product development around our super range of products.
Leo, fantastic to get your perspective here to understand more about the Superloaf story. And what is clear is that it is the start of, the shape of health to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
With American youth apparently spending 44 hours a month glued to TikTok, well above the global average, it's time to talk to someone who not only creates great content for brands, but also monitors it. Shall we talk health, Shania?
Well, I've done my homework, as you might expect, and it's fair to say that there's a lot of false information out there. The issue is that there are so many creators providing health hacks, but the likelihood of having any credibility or qualifications is very slim. For example, this creator talks health hacks, but they're pretty much all common sense.
5 ways to dramatically improve your health. 1. Sweat 4 to 5 times a week. Work out, sauna. Sweating is the only way to get toxin and chemical buildup and accumulation out of you, so it has improved my health so much. Second thing is to add minerals to your water. We all think that if we drink a ton of water, that means we're hydrated. Water is actually only one part of the equation. You also need minerals. That's actually what gets you hydrated. I use trace minerals. 3, eat more protein. Especially as women, most of us are not eating enough protein. If you're not having animal products, you're probably not getting enough protein. 4, eat breakfast within 1 hour of waking up, which I know is really hard. For women, our bodies and our hormones, we need breakfast ASAP. Eat it right away. 5, eat all your meals sitting down. This is an interesting one. It'll help with your digestion. I promise you will notice a difference in your bloat. Try it out.
However, some credible sources do share free healthcare advice on the platform, like this NHS professional.
My name's Dr. Bevan. I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist. I've been seeing so many patients in my clinics who are taking lots of different vitamins and supplements, lots of them that they don't even need to be taking. There's only one thing that I need you all to be taking in the UK right now on a daily basis. Everything else you should get enough of through your diet, unless your doctor's prescribed you something specific. So many people are wasting so much money by taking various vitamins and supplements that some sort of influencers recommended to them. The only vitamin that you need to be taking in autumn and winter in the UK, so from around October through to March, is vitamin D.
Researchers from Australia recently evaluated nutrition-based content on TikTok and found that the vast majority of posts lacked accurate content, but also that inaccurate posts received significantly more interaction. The team behind the research claims that TikTok prioritizes engagement over accuracy, exposing young people to potentially harmful misinformation.
Yeah, I saw that study. It found that the majority of health and wellness posts were coming from influencers who have the time and financial incentive to be active on the platform. By contrast, dietitians, nutritionists, and other health professionals posted far less frequently.
So, when we think of the shape of health to come, we will need to be mindful of the scale of misinformation out there. Now, younger people have clearly wasted no time in prioritizing their brain health. How is this playing out?
Well, for Gen Z, aspects of brain health such as anxiety, depression, and overthinking lead the way, as mental health creator Lily Shervy highlights.
Honestly, this will change your life. It's something that my therapist told me last year, and it is the absolute game changer for your mental health. So I really struggle with getting overwhelmed in my head, feeling really anxious, really low. You know, when your thoughts are just going off on one and you just want to make them shut up. Just anything to stop thinking. All you have to do is listen to EMDR bilateral music with headphones. There's technical stuff behind it, but the gist is it stops that part of your brain that just spirals and spirals and spirals and overthinks and gets you stressed and anxious and all that kind of stuff.
Her video has been liked 300,000 times. Now, I know what you're going to ask me, so I'll save you the trouble. EMDR bilateral music is an evolution of chilled background vibes. It's based on a therapy technique called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. The music alternates sounds between the left and right ears to mimic the brain's natural rhythm during REM sleep. The result is a surprisingly simple way to help reduce stress, ease anxiety, and promote emotional balance.
Some of our listeners may be familiar with EMDR from the book The Body Keeps the Score, which talks about the inception of treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, on a psychiatric level.
Sure, here's a piece that's been liked over 500,000 times from the people behind the Calm app. Listeners might want to slow their breathing.
Shania, we'll see you next time. But for now, thanks for ticking off how TikTok does health.
Right. Well, I'm here now with Alexandra Kuzmina. Alexandra is from MMR's innovation team, Nova. You're usually exploring the cutting edge of consumer and sensory research technology, Alex, but I think this time you've turned the lens on yourself, experimenting firsthand with some of the most exciting non-invasive wellness products on the market. Lucky you.
Absolutely. Well, we're seeing a huge surge in this market and more choice and accessibility than ever before, which is really empowering. But most of these options often come with a premium price tag. So knowing what really works is crucial.
Yeah. So speaking of what really works, Alex, what do you make of the rise of these wellness tech devices? Are they shaping the way people manage their health?
They certainly are. So I've had my Aura Ring for about 8 months now. And honestly, it's completely changed how I approach my well-being. So I've tried countless trackers and apps before, but this one really stuck because it does not just track my well-being, it genuinely helps to improve it.
Okay. So could you give us an example of how it's doing this?
Sure. So here's a surprise. I've always believed I was a night owl. Staying up late was natural for me, but Aura revealed I'm actually an early evening chronotype. And once I've adjusted my sleep patterns accordingly, my daytime energy transformed dramatically. And it was like unlocking a better rested, clear headed version of me. And also the subtle things it detects, like slight temperature increases or the effects of jet lag, giving you those vital signs early and enabling you to prioritize rest before hitting burnout. And that awareness is only half of the battle, and you need actionable ways to be able to respond to stress too.
Yeah, this is really great, isn't it? I think products like the Aura Ring really empower people. These tracking devices give you information that is empowering, and they allow you to know what to do to target, for example, stress. Now, I understand that you've also tried some of these products that allow you to then affect your health, aimed, I think, in this case, relaxation, and that was Sensate, right? How did that go?
Yes, so the Sensei is really fascinating, and I've been using it for a few years now. And it's based on the concept of acoustics, essentially combining sound and vibration to manage stress indirectly through the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is like your body's internal calm button. It helps you out of fight or flight mode, so when you're stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, and into a rest and recover mode where your body can actually relax, digest, and recharge.
So how does it actually work, Alex?
So this device looks like a smooth pebble. It goes directly on your chest bone and it vibrates. And then there's also music in your headphones via an app. So the music and vibration are synced to trigger a relaxation response. And it's really easy to use because it's non-invasive. There's no electrical stimulation involved. So for me, Sensate quickly became a really good tool for resetting after a particularly intense day or winding down for sleep. So when my aura ring indicates that my stress levels are high or recovery is lacking, I then use Sensei to actively restore that balance. And Andy, I know you've been testing something that is a little bit more targeted for vagus nerve activation. Would you like to share what it was like?
Yeah, because I've said before, haven't I, about doing this pod, sometimes you end up shelling out a lot of your own money. And well, I shelled out £500 of my own money,
Oh my
I
God.
might add, because we have no budget here, on the NeuroSim. And it's interesting because this device, it works slightly different to the Sensei. You actually attach it to the tragus part of your ear. Who knew we had a tragus? But it's been backed by a lot of clinical research and is being marketed as a powerful tool for improving recovery, reducing stress, supporting conditions like long COVID, chronic fatigue, anxiety.
What have you noticed personally?
So this is my 4th week, and I would say definite impacts. I think mentally, I just feel a greater degree of clarity, more attentive, if you like. And, reading the science behind this, there is evidence, it says, that shows it reduces, quote, attention deficiency. So I guess I'm feeling some of that.
Mm.
The other thing that I've found hard evidence for is around heart rate variability. Now, basically, heart rate variability, as you probably know, is how responsive the heart is to various demands and stresses. And generally, increases in HRV are good. Now, as you get older, your baseline falls. But I've had a pretty flat baseline over the last year. But what I have noticed when I look on the data collected by my Apple Watch is that over the last 4 weeks, there's been a 30% increase in my baseline for HRV. So there has been an impact there. I think it's a great example, and you alluded to it earlier, the ability to use sort of tracking technology like the Oura Ring or the Apple Watch, and then pair that with the sorts of technology we're talking about now, the NeuroSim and the Sensate, to really empower you. And it does feel like it's really integral to the shape of health to come.
Ooh, I'm especially excited about how subtle and seamless this technology is becoming. So imagine not even needing a device at all. And instead, it could be a thin, almost invisible tattoo like sensor, as slender as a hair, but continuously monitoring your stress, heart health, or even hormone levels. Researchers are already developing graphene tattoos capable of tracking everything from blood pressure to cortisol levels, all non invasively. And this could completely transform how we detect illness, how we manage mental health, and personalize wellness. Looks like technology is fading into the background, becoming almost like a sixth sense, gently guiding us to rest, recover, and staying in sync with ourselves, which is really exciting.
I feel that I've, already seen the future with the NeuroSim, and I think you've also seen the future with your tattoos. Thank you, Alex, for spending time with us on the pod.
Thanks for having me.
But that's about it for our health-focused episode. Don't forget to download your copy of MMR's brand new overview of what health means now. including 10 nuanced growth spaces for visionaries and innovators to springboard from, and so much more.
That's mmr-research.com, and follow the links for that. Next time, we're showcasing the experience economy supermarket style, checking out some of the world's best product experiences.
Yeah, asking what is a product experience and why they will matter more. So all will become clear. And it really is time that you subscribe so you don't miss an episode and you help us reach more of the people like yourselves.
Andrew and I are off for our longevity infusions, so we'll be seeing you next time and hopefully for many decades to come.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.